everybody, it's me, the real KBC. And today I kind of just want to get something off my chest, but I also want to talk about something rather interesting. And honestly, this has been kind of irking me because, um, and I'm sure you've noticed this, but I'm passionate about video games. I've talked about it at least a couple different times on the channel, made a couple different videos about video games. Yeah, I like video games. I've been playing them ever since I was a kid. And in the world of modern gaming, as people like to call it, although that term will be outdated in like 10 years, but whatever. Anyway, um, there has been a lot of stumbles. However, people really do like to dwell on those stumbles, and they like to make it seem as though there just aren't any good games anymore, which, as it turns out, isn't actually true. Um, Good games still do exist, even if it seems like we get fewer and fewer of them. It's not like they're just not around. It's not like there aren't companies that are willing to give their fans what they want. They certainly exist, and in my opinion, I feel like people are either clinging to their nostalgia or just tend to exaggerate or dwell too much on the failures of modern gaming. And that's the thing. Every decade of gaming has its ups and downs. In my opinion, there's decades that are better than other decades, but at the same time, every decade has its pros and cons. This decade is certainly no different. Nor was 20 years ago, because in my opinion, like 20 years ago, gaming wasn't perfect. It also had tons and tons of flaws. And there are people that like to act like they were perfect. Sure, there are definitely people that will talk about the flaws of yesteryear um, in gaming. And I'm glad that those people exist because, yeah, um, 20 years ago, gaming wasn't perfect. 15 years ago, gaming wasn't perfect. People like to say that it was, but it really wasn't. Good games still exist. There's definitely still passionate people. Um, and it's ridiculous that people just like to act like they don't. And of course, there's a couple different examples of this, both big and small. And I want to come out here and say that there's this stigma that every AAA game sucks or every indie game is good. Um, of course, this is a gross generalization because, for one thing, not every AAA game is necessarily coming out buggy nowadays. A couple of them are, but not all of them are, and not all of them are necessarily bad. Um, and not every indie game under the sun is the greatest thing ever. There's certainly a plethora of bad indie games that not many people talk about for whatever reason. Um, hmm. Maybe they don't have Steam, or maybe they don't browse the bad games on Steam, or really anywhere for that matter, because people don't like to play bad games for the most part. There are fun bad games out there, um, but those games are more in the camp of so bad they're good, if we're being honest here, or so bad that they're actually enjoyable. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Not every AAA game is the worst thing ever, and not every indie game out there is the best thing ever. There are definitely bad indie games, they certainly exist, and there's certainly good AAA games. Let's stop with the generalization. It'd be great if people could stop saying that. And the AAA versus indie argument is really dumb. It is, in my opinion. Um, I've seen people say that indie games are safe in gaming. I don't really think they are. I just think that that's also a gross generalization. I'm not saying indie games in general are bad. I like indie games. I think they're cool. I like how quirky they are. But not every game is the best thing ever. And indie games in and themselves, I don't really think they're having that big of an impact on the whole industry as as widespread as people think. If we're being honest here, or as big as they think. Like, sure, there's certainly an impact, but it's more of an understated impact if we're being honest here. And that's the thing with indie games. They're understated. There's definitely good ones, but not all of them are good. There's certainly bad AAA games out there, but not all of them are bad. So, yeah. But the point is that, yeah, there's definitely people that are passionate There's definitely dev teams that want to give their fans what they want, and in my opinion, they don't really get the credit that they deserve, and the gaming community disrespects them too dang often. And in my opinion, they just come off as selfish and entitled at times. At least that's just how I see it. And the treatment of these devs is just unfair most of the time, in my opinion, because they got a lot of unnecessary hate and get dogpiled most of the time, when really it's not even their fault. It's usually down to poor management or because they were rushed and so they didn't really have a lot of time. But even then, again, I do think it's ridiculous to disrespect people. Sure, critique all you want, but don't disrespect the people who know more about the craft than you. Most of the people in the video game community don't actually know how video game development works. I myself included don't know how video game development works. I know certain parts and pieces of it, sure. Like, I know about the process, I just don't know everything. And it would be great if people in the video game community, specific people, not everybody, I'm not trying to generalize here. I don't think anybody in the game community is like this. I'm just saying people, most people, from what I can tell on social media, are just incredibly disrespectful to the devs and never give them props where their props are due. They never give credit where credit is due. And they over criticize them. Sure, you can criticize something, but then you just go way too far with it. So yeah, and that's what people do. They sometimes tend to go overboard with the criticism to the point where it just becomes straight up slander. It's ridiculous. It happens so often in the video game community, and I want it to stop. I really do. But whatever. The point is that good video games, they still exist. There's tons of them, both big and small. Right? Games that take up to 15 hours or 100 hours. Let's stop acting like they don't exist. They do. Give criticism where criticism is due, but please do not dogpile, and please respect the devs. And yeah, honestly, that's it. That's all I got. Are there good video games that you like? Please say so in the comment section. Um, and I'm talking about from modern gaming. Are there good games from modern gaming that you like? Are there video games from modern gaming that you don't think is good? Please explain why. For both. And of course, I'm gonna be doing a community post of this. Please don't forget to check that and participate with that. Also, all the important stuff is in the description. Please don't forget to check that either. And if you want more of me, then you know exactly what to do. I will not hold your hand through the process. Real King out, and please try not to be toxic.